You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Filmmaking Conversations with Damian Swaby. Listen to conversations with award-winning filmmakers, directors from the golden age of television, and creatives from the indie film community who continue to inspire the next generation of filmmakers. And now, over to your host, Damian Swaby.
Today on Filmmaking Conversations, I speak to Jimmy Star, the host and producer of The Jimmy Star Show, alongside his co-host, Ron Russell. It is TV radio's coolest syndicated entertainment, music, fashion, and pop culture show. In each live 2-hour TV program, Jimmy Star and Ron Russell have a blast talking with celebrity friends, guests, and bringing you the good times with industry insider ideas with cool music, movies, TV, and pop culture previews. Some of the guests that have been on the show are Leon, a singer and actor who appeared in movies like Cool Runnings, which was one of the first films I ever saw at the cinema, and the classic The 5 Heartbeats. Wow. In my house, that is a family favourite for sure. CeCe Peniston, an American recording artist and former beauty queen who had that classic hit song, Finally, and I remember buying that CD too. Sorry, it was actually a cassette tape. Kenny Aronoff, a highly respected session drummer who has played with a wide range of artists. As a public figure, Jimmy Star has established himself as a publicist and president of World Star PR, and he has been involved with the fashion industry since 1998 as a celebrity clothing and fashion designer. His influence and reach in the film industry are evident through his networking events and contributions to film industry news. I strongly advise, for more information about Jimmy, you visit his website, jimmystarsworld.com. But before you do, continue listening to this episode of Filmmaking Conversations with me, your host Damian Swaby, and find out when Jimmy started his podcast and a whole lot more.
So I'm on an actual radio station, an internet radio station called W4CY.com, and we have a thing here called Craigslist in America. And it's like a thing where people put up like jobs and different kinds of things. And they put up a list saying that they were looking for interns to work at the radio station. And I sent a message saying, hey, I don't want to be an intern, but I'd like to host a show. And I know a lot of famous people, I think we could, do a really good job with it. And they contacted me and I went and talked to them and they gave me a 50-minute show. And after like 4 weeks, they asked me if I wanted to do a 2-hour show because so many people were tuning in and listening. And so then we became a 2-hour show, and we've been that way ever since.
Oh, that's excellent. A 2-hour show. That's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. How many people are behind your show, and how often do you put the show out?
The show's every Wednesday. It's live every Wednesday from 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific time, which is like 8 to 10 p.m. your time in the UK. And how many people are behind the show? Nobody. I do everything.
Oh, excellent.
I find the guests. I create the graphics. I do all the promotions. And then I have my co-host, who's also my husband, comes on the show, and he's very, very funny. Mm-hmm. And so he just comes on for the show, but I actually do all the setting up and putting it together and finding sponsors and all the different stuff. I do everything.
Excellent. I love the work rate that you have to be able to do what you do by yourself. I know it's not easy at all. And your husband, who's involved with the show as a commentator or an interviewer,
co-host, yeah, he's like a co-host.
Is he involved with the business at all of entertainment outside of?
Oh yeah, he's an actor. He's been in a ton of movies and television shows, so he's an actor. He's been an actor for almost since he was 18 years old. I think he's been an actor, and he's 83. So he's been in the business for a very long time.
So what I've noticed that you have a strong focus on promoting fans who you see as friends. Can you share some examples of how you've supported their art?
I support everybody, believe it or not. I would say a lot of them actually are friends or people that have been on the show. I support everybody who's ever been on the show. but I also like I met you on Twitter, which is now X, and
Yeah.
all the people on Twitter, like I have a group that I've been tweeting with for like 10 years, and everybody helps support each other. Everybody's in different facets of the business. Most of them are in entertainment, but different areas of entertainment, and we all help promote each other. And we have like a little group, that promotes everybody, and that's helps everybody's numbers be really strong, and help just supports. I support everybody. Like anybody who talks to me on social media, I always respond. I do my own social media. I always respond if you've got tons of followers or you have hardly any followers. I try to respond to everybody and just be respectful with everybody and help anybody in any way that I can.
That's nice. That's very nice, because not everybody has the same kind of beliefs that you do. But where exactly does the desire come from to support everybody? Because some people can be selfish, some people don't have that type of desire. Where does it come from you?
I just think that I believe in paying it forward. People have taught me a lot as I've been going along and helped me out when they were bigger than I was. And I really appreciated it. And even now, like now I'm producing movies and I learn, stuff all the time from people. I appreciate the fact that they would take the time to help me. So I like to pay it back by, doing the same thing for other people.
Excellent. And that's one of the reasons why I got in contact with you. I hit you up in your DMs with a question to come on the podcast, because you tweeted you were looking for film investors and you have a slate of films from $300,000 up to $17 million. And you have a great track record of making money in films. How do you go about getting the funding for your films? And when exactly did you start becoming a producer?
Well, I've got 43 films, I think, that I've produced. I've been in the industry forever. I was an extra even as a little kid in things. So I've been in, I don't know, I have many, like, credits on IMDb. And I think that hardcore producing is only in the last couple of years where I'm really trying to make it an occupation. Without having to do too many other things. I'm a publicist also, but and finding the money is the most difficult thing. So basically, like whoever finds the money is the king of the hill. And so I spent a lot of time doing it. I mean, you see, I put those tweets out. That's basically like begging people to like get involved. And I have met many people through those tweets. They haven't all worked out, but I've met all kinds of people that I've learned things from. I have 2 films right now that are going to start shooting soon now that the strike is over, and I have investors I'm talking with on 2 other films. And basically, it's very difficult to raise money for films. It's extremely hard. I pound on a lot of doors and I send people a lot of messages on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Now I'm doing TikTok. Just trying to meet people to get me in the right rooms to be able to get money. And there's all different kinds of ways to finance films. And so I'll talk to anybody, because I need to find the money for the films.
And what are some of the things you've learned from other producers that have helped you get money for your films?
I don't know, one of the biggest things is that you just can't have a big ass ego. Everybody's done a whole lot of different things and everybody's got a different set of skills, but you really have to be like open-minded and not a jerk. You're trying to get money from people and it doesn't matter like, how much success you've had. Everybody's always concerned, I always get the money back. I don't have any projects that like I wasn't able to repay my investor.
Good.
And that's a really big deal. So it's super important, that's the other super important thing is if you want to be able to continue making movies, you got to be able to get the money back. A lot of people make movies and they have great ideas, but they don't have any idea of the business that goes behind it. So they make a movie and then nothing ever happens with the movie because they don't know how to get it distributed. They don't know how to, even I have a movie right now and it's on Tubi, which I don't know if you guys have Tubi in the UK. Do you have Tubi? Tubi TV?
We don't have Tubi, but I know of it. I think many of the listeners from here would know of it. Yeah.
Like I have a movie on Tubi and it's a great movie, but because we didn't put any like big names in it that anybody knows, it can't get distribution everywhere because, unfortunately we don't have any. So even though it's a great movie, and it wasn't made for a lot of money, it's gone as far as it can go because it doesn't have any recognizable names to get European distribution. And so you have to think of everything when you're doing all this stuff. And it's very important that, no matter what level of film, you need to have somebody with a name in the film, which is super important. Even if you make like a $50,000 horror movie, you got to go find a horror movie actor that everybody knows to get in it if you want the film to go anywhere.
And I'm guessing you might have relationships with actors that people would know in the indie film market or the horror film market. And how do you go about making these relationships?
Believe it or not, so I made the relationships because of my show. I have a list of about 400 or 500 like actors that people know that I send to people if they're looking for people that I know that I can just go to. I don't have to call agents and stuff, or I can get on the phone and call them and say, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And so for a lot of the lower budget films, I already know everybody that we would need to put in them to make them work.
That's amazing.
In the bigger movies, 3 million, 5 million, sometimes you need some bigger people to go with it. And that sometimes gets a little bit more difficult. But you basically the first question every investor is going to ask you is who's in it. Always. That's the very first question, who's in it. So if you don't have anybody in it that can carry the weight of the film, if it's $100,000 film, you don't need as big a weight as if it's a $5 million film, but you need, somebody who can carry the film so that people get their money back.
Understandable. And am I right by saying there might be a certain problem based upon the money in the way that you can go approach a certain actor and say, hey, do you want to do this film? It's going to be brilliant and we're going to do this and that. And the actor may say, or the actor's agent might say, what have you got the money?
Yeah, they always ask that.
Yeah. And
and they don't want you to use their name to raise the money a lot of the time, which is like a catch-22, because you need the actor to get the investor, and you need the investor money to get the actor. So it's a catch-22, and it's a very fine line that you have to go back and forth between. And there is no answer to how do you make it work.
Yeah,
it's incredibly difficult. I'm doing it right now for like 4 different films, and I'm trying to ride that line of figuring out how we're going to get it all done. But that's what makes the people who are able to do things and the people who can't. You basically have to think, outside of the box. You have to think outside of the box, and basically you do whatever you got to do to make the whole thing work.
And if you are looking for funding for a film that's up to the 17 million region, I guess you're not approaching one person, you're approaching 2, 3, or 4 potential funders to make that type of budget. Is that the case, or have you ever had
I haven't had too many people finance a whole thing at 17 million, because we usually go to like real estate groups or doctor's office groups or things like that to try to think outside of the box to find people to invest. And 17 million could also be like a studio film, which I do have a really good one that I'm working on slowly. Those movies take a lot more time.
Yeah. So going to a doctor's office and people of that stature, a friend of mine, they luckily got their film funded due to having an uncle who was a doctor, and he was able to supply them with a certain amount of funds to finish their project. How would someone without relatives in that industry or real estate or something along those lines approach a doctor to get funding?
I approach them in social media. I would look them up and then see if they have Twitter accounts, and then I would try and tweet to them and send them information, get them to follow me back so I can send them direct information, or go online and find out the contact information for their email, and send them an email saying, hey, would you ever consider this? And there's all kinds of great tax benefits right now, because they have the 181, I think it's 181, where basically you can write off the entire movie, off your income tax. And it's only going to last, I think, another year or 2. But so right now, though, especially now at the end of the year, it's a good time to invest in movies. If you made a lot of money and you need write-offs, you can write it off immediately off your taxes.
So people better hurry up.
Yeah, so people better hurry up. It would be helpful if they were to hurry up, yes.
Yeah. So the first film you ever got funding for, tell us about that one, and how did you feel with the finished product?
I don't even know what the first one was. I'd have to almost look at my IMDb. But I think that every film that I've ever worked on was a big deal. Because it's so much work, and I'll tell you, so I've done a ton of, like, let's say under $500,000 movies. And those movies, you learn a lot, and they're not that much different than doing a $10 million movie. You still have the same jobs and everything has to get done. But the reason why I don't make those lower budget movies anymore, even though I have two of them, that I have one coming out in February, but I'm not really working on those movies anymore, is that as a producer, you don't really make any money on those. And I'm at the age where I've already got enough experience. I need to make money. And on those lower budget, movies, you don't really make any money. But you still have to do all the same amount of work. So I have just decided in my old age, that since I'm also a publicist and I have to take time off of being a publicist to do this, I make more money as a publicist than I would make on one of those smaller movies. So I don't do them anymore because it's not financially beneficial, and I'm getting too old to not make money when I'm working on a project. Everybody has to pay their dues and do a lot of work that they don't really get paid for. But I've been doing it long enough now that I don't take on jobs if I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, that's more than understandable. Everyone's got to pay their dues, but it gets to that point when it's a case of, okay, I need to get paid properly for the hours, the time, and the knowledge that I'm spending on this project. That's for sure.
Yes, because nowadays I don't know if they do this we have Indiegogo and different crowdfunding campaigns, and a lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people here in the United States do those Indiegogo campaigns, and they sell producer credits and sell acting credits and all that different stuff. And I even have a film right now that's got an Indiegogo campaign, but it's only for perks. We're not giving away any actors and producers and all that stuff, because I don't believe in that. But I think that because a lot of those movies, like, I get approached by probably like 10 campaigns a month where people want me to donate for a producer credit. And I like, no, I'm from the old school. I'm an actual producer. I can put the whole film together and I get paid for it. So every credit that I have on IMDb is a real credit. I didn't spend $100 and get a producer credit. I actually worked on all of them.
That's a funny thing for you to say in that way, because I've never thought about it. I've seen loads of crowdfunding campaigns where if you donate this, you become a producer, you get this, or you get this type of credit. But I always assume that the industry itself, like on IMDb, would have some sort of validation kind of thing happening where that can't be possible. But I guess I'm completely wrong. I had no idea.
I went to a premiere the other day, like 2 weeks ago, and at the ending credits, there was like maybe 100 producers. Everybody put in, I don't know how much money they put in to be a producer, but everybody put in $500 to get a producer credit. But not one of them could actually put the movie together. They don't know what they're doing. They're just buying. It's more of an ego thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I said before, you really can't have an ego. So I don't participate in those. I go support the movies because I have friends that are acting them, and I like the people who do them. But I personally myself do not participate. Like, I would never buy a producer credit or an acting credit. And when people contact me saying, "Hey, we'd love you to produce my movie," my first question is, do you have a budget to pay me? And they're like, no. If they say no, we want you to donate to the Indiegogo thing. I just say, hey, good luck with it, but I don't do that. I'm a real producer. If you want me to produce your movie, then you have to have a budget, and I get paid.
I see. No, that's fair. Funnily enough, I was watching a short film the other day. I sent it to my friend. We both thought it was okay and all the rest of it, but we couldn't believe how many producers were in the credits at the end of the film. And we thought, my gosh, it was like 2 locations, short film, 3 minutes. How many producers did it take to make this? But based upon what you're saying, I guess they got those kind of production credits.
Everybody jumps in. Yeah, everybody dumps in $50 or something, and they get a little credit on a short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the new thing in Hollywood for independent filmmakers. We have it a lot here because I'm actually in California. We have it a lot here, but I just don't participate, and I just don't like it because I think a lot of times the reason those films are not any good is because, all the, except for they'll always put like 1 or 2 big actors in them, and those people get paid obviously, but everybody else pays for their roles, and they're not really professional actors, and you can tell, when you see them acting, they're like, terrible, and they can't act at all. So I don't really like that. I think it's super unprofessional, and I don't and I just don't participate in it. Like, everybody gets to do what they want to do, but I'm just old school. I'm old. I'm 59 years old, so I'm really part of like Hollywood from a different time, and I still live in that era of like everybody gets paid to do their jobs. Nobody works for free, and you raise the money and you work hard and put out a good product. And unfortunately, it's not like that anymore. But the whole world is changing. The world's just not what it was when I was growing up either. So you kind of got to let them do whatever they want to do, and you have to decide what you're okay doing, and then you do what you're okay doing for you.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. And in terms of critical acclaim, personally, for the projects you've been a part of, are there any that you felt really stood out for you as a lover of film rather than just being a producer?
I have a film called Quigley that we did, and we're working on the sequel to it right now. It was a low budget film that was very successful. It's a family film about a dog, and we're doing the sequel. It's called Quigley 2, and it's basically a story about these dogs who come down from heaven to save a toy factory from a bad lady, and all the toys are made by people with autism. And it's a really beautiful family, film and script. And I've been working on it a very, very long time, and we're starting to get some interest in it. I had it funded twice, and things fell apart at the last second. And so I'm hoping that it's going to go this third time. And it's a phenomenal story. I like feel good stories. I like horror movies. Obviously, that's my favorite genre, and that's a genre that makes money. But I'm working on a lot of family films just primarily because I think that the world is in such a terrible place that people need some stuff that you can feel good about.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I was saying that to a friend about Pure Flix, the company that makes a lot of family. Great company. I really like some of those family films. I'm looking forward to watching some at Christmas. That's usually the time when it happens for me. So you have this film, and you said previously funding was broken down at the last minute. And I think that a lot of people have gone through that
twice.
I
had it twice where I had a cast and everything. I had a good cast and good people and everything, and it fell apart twice. The first time the investors, we were going to make it for a certain amount of money, and then they kept saying, because it was with a big company, a big crooked company, which I can't stand, but they were going to give us a certain amount of money, and then they kept whittling the money down. So it went from $1.5 million to $700,000, and at $700,000 we couldn't make it, so it didn't go through after we already had the cast and everything. And then the second time it fell through because of COVID.
I can understand how upsetting that is. It's happened to me myself, so I can really understand. What do you do to recover from that period? What are the next steps after things fall through for you?
You know what? I always have a pretty good outlook on things. Like, I always just think it wasn't meant to be. If it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to be, and you can't fit a circle into a square box, So I pretty much am kind of like happy-go-lucky. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but because I have so many projects, like I think I have a slate of about 20 films, and I have nine films in development, and I have 4 films that look like they're going to get made soon. So I'm always working, on other projects, and I get submitted about 50 scripts a month of people who want me to produce stuff, which I don't take. I'm not taking on any new ones now, just because I got to get what I've got done. But I look at the log lines. If anything is really good, I might want to take it in. But in general, because I've always got something going on, I just keep plugging away. And go through. I believe that you always have to go through the doors that open. Like lots of doors. I mean, I've had so many doors slammed on my face. It's not even funny. So instead of getting disappointed, I just look for the open door, and I go through whatever door opens, and I make it work with whatever doors will open. And I think that, everybody has disappointments, but if you let the disappointments, ruin you, you're not going to grow from the learning experience of like, why didn't this work out? Was it something I did? Was it something they did? Were they just messed up, or was I messed up, and did I just mess the whole thing up? You don't really know. So you analyze it, figure out what went wrong, learn from your mistakes. If it wasn't your mistake, and because some people are just fickle or not, not good people or con artists, you got to remember this is the film industry. There's so many con artists. People will tell you that they'll give you the world until it comes time to actually give you the money or give you whatever it is that they've promised. Because everybody wants to act like a big shot, and that's something that I have had lots of problems with in the past. So I'm way more careful with people now, because everybody can talk a good game, but when it comes down to actually doing what you're supposed to be doing, a lot of them can't come through with it. So I've become very skeptical, especially since I know that everybody's IMDb is like bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually literally brought somebody on a project because I thought he had great contacts, and he produced like 200 films, and I was like, okay, this guy's got like super duper experience, and we brought him on board, and it ended up that he paid for a producer credit on every single one of the 200 movies, and he has no idea couldn't do one thing on a film, doesn't know how to do anything on a film. And I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me.
Gosh.
Like I don't know how people do that. So they say that they're a producer, and like they couldn't find you a location. They couldn't get you hooked up with your SAG documents. They can't get you insurance. They can't do anything. They don't know how to do anything.
Fraud.
Yeah. And so because of that, and because of that whole crowdfunding thing, you have to really be very careful with who you get involved with, and make sure that they actually have skills to do things, because a lot of people do not.
As a producer, you're getting 50 scripts a month, which is incredible. And, that's a perfect position to be in for many of us, to be able to have scripts to read often. What do you look for in a log line that would make you think, I'm going to read this script?
Right now, I look for something that's different, that hasn't already been done, because everybody's film, every time somebody comes up with something, it's basically something else rehashed.
Yeah.
So I look for things that are original, that I don't go to it and automatically think, gee, I've seen 15 different movies with this plot. That's usually what will get me going and interested into the next thing. And then also I like, now, at least for the last maybe 2 years, I like stuff that's feel good, because so if it's got a good, fun, feel good type of a feel that I feel is family oriented. It's funny because people don't think, I'm gay, so people automatically think that I'm going to be super, like, I don't know, liberal, or I don't know, super wild or whatever, but I'm old, and so I live in a house with dogs and everything. So I'm relatively conservative, and I really would like the world to get back a little bit more conservative of values. And so anything that's, good family fun that I think is good. And even like, and love stories and romantic comedies, and, just things that are feel good. It doesn't have to be necessarily for the family, but it has to be, something that when I get done with it, I'm going to feel good after I see it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I understand that feeling. And
unless it's a horror film. I mean, because I really love horror. Like that's my number one genre. I collect action figures, and I'm friends with all the major horror movie stars. I've had them all on my show. I've worked with a bunch of them. So horror is my genre, but if it's not a horror film in general, I pretty much like it to be feel good.
Fair enough. One way or the other. Fair enough.
Yes.
I like them both too. What is it about horror that really appeals to you?
Yeah, I don't really know. It's just something I've always liked, even as a kid, I think maybe because I'm, so I used to be a celebrity clothing designer.
Oh, okay.
I've dressed everybody. I've dressed Elton John and Madonna and all kinds of people. And I used to go to conventions. I don't know if I know they have conventions, where they have all the stars come and you get autographs and stuff. I used to go to all those conventions, and that's how I built my podcast. I would go to those conventions, give away my clothes to the actors, and they would come to my hotel room and pick stuff out, and I would give it to them as long as I could take pictures with them. And then I would say, hey, I'd really love you to come on my podcast, and they would, and that's how my podcast grew really fast. Because I had huge people at the very beginning, Lance Henriksen and Malcolm McDowell, and all these like huge, actors, and I became friends with all of them, and it was such a cool thing because horror is my genre. So I think that just the fact that I like horror primarily because I became friends with so many people, and they've all been very good. And one thing about the horror community is that the horror community is very loyal.
Okay.
If you develop a fan base of people who like horror, horror movie people are very, very loyal. Like I'm very loyal. Like I see every Lance Henriksen movie, even his shitaroos that are terrible, but I see all of them because he's like one of my favorite actors. And he gave me a really cool gift one time. Did you ever see the movie Alien?
Oh gosh, of course, yeah, love it.
So Lance Henriksen plays Bishop. He's the android in it. So he makes these tiles, ceramic tiles of the alien monster. He hand makes them. He doesn't sell them. He just makes them. And he actually gave me one of them at a convention. And on the back, he wrote, "Jimmy Star, the coolest Fucker, I've ever met." And he wrote that, on the back of it and gave it to me as a gift. And, you see the tiles, some people are selling them on eBay for thousands of dollars, because he made it. But I would never say it's like my most prized possession.
Yeah.
So I just like it. I think the horror movie people are cool. I think the actors are cool. It helps that I know so many of them, so it's fun. I get to go to all the horror premieres, here in California when they come out, and I think it's just fun to be scared. To get scared, and I like all the genres of horror.
And is there one horror film you can say to us that you would recommend for us to watch? Because I like horror.
The Lost Boys is my favorite. I love the movie The Lost Boys. It's a classic. I love the Saw movies.
Oh yes, yeah.
I like The People Under the Stairs because I'm friends with a lot of the people in it.
Oh, great. Okay.
I'm friends with Pinhead, so I like the Hellraiser series. I've had every Jason that's ever played Jason in the Friday the 13th movies on my show, so I like Friday the 13th movies. I like 80s horror a lot. Because I'm friends with everybody from 80s horror. But I'm hopefully going to be doing a movie soon with Bonnie Aarons from The Nun, I think is going to be in it. And I've got another film I'm crowdfunding for, and it's got some really big horror movie people in it. So I think I just like them all. I just like it. I just think it's fun. In a way, I'm kind of like I like working in the movies because I love hanging out with celebrities. It's a lot of fun. I've always had a blast doing it. I've been super fortunate, in my career that I used to live in Florida, and I got to go to like the MTV Awards, and I walked the red carpet. Nice. And I've gotten to do so many fun things that I just enjoy it a lot. And when I started, I was making money as a clothing designer back in the day, and I just think that I've had transitioned a lot, and I love the fact that now I produce full time. I basically do producing of movies, my show, and I'm a publicist. But I'm an entertainment publicist, so everybody I work with is an entertainer. And those are my three, forms of income and the three things that I do. And since sometimes like we haven't been able to work on movies because of the SAG strike, and investors weren't really talking to people because they didn't know when the strike was going to be over. Now that the strike is over, I'm hoping that'll open up some doors and we'll be able to do some more work, and get back to work again. Because I also became a producer. I used to act, but I stink at it. I'm terrible. I'm not a good actor.
Out there we can watch of you in?
Oh, I have a movie called Clown Motel 2 that I'm in. I have that's out. I think it's out now. There's a movie called Croaker. I'm really bad in that one. It's a low budget horror movie. But I'm not a good actor, but people put me in their films because I have like 1.5 million followers throughout my social media, and they want me in the films to promote it. But I really like producing because, for anybody out there listening who doesn't know if they want to produce or they want to act, producers make way more money than actors do, unless you're like, unless you're Charlize Theron or Brad Pitt or something, but if you're just a regular, everyday, independent actor, you make way more money as a producer. So if you can learn how to produce and learn how to raise money, you can make a lot of money.
And that's always good.
No, it is. I mean, I think it's people have to know, because I think so many people, very few people are going to be the next Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
So you have to think about it like realistically. So if you want to work in films and you still get to hang out and do cool things, but the producers really, for me, the producer and the writer is another good skill set. Because if you become well known as a writer, you can do very well selling scripts or making your own movies. But there's a lot more money to be made as a producer than there is as an actor. So I kind of like my transition from trying to be an actor that I wasn't any good at anyway to a producer, which I am good at.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Do you make movies too? I mean, movies too. Do you make movies also?
Yes. Well, I haven't much lately. I've been doing a lot of corporate video work and shooting videos and editing in that way. But I've been in New York last year. I'll be back hopefully by the end of the year making a documentary again. It's called. Oh, I don't actually. I shouldn't talk about it too much. But yeah, I've getting back to making stuff. Took some time out, especially around COVID. I was sitting at home editing remotely. I'm getting back to making stuff. And as a former actor as well, I can say that the money for acting is not quite what it is for producing and maybe editing. I don't know why it is, but it just feels like actors will act, for money that potentially producers or writers won't.
Right.
Perform for.
I'm
not sure why.
The bigger the movie, though, the more. I mean, I have movies that I make $100,000-$200,000 in my salary for. When they're big budget movies, and then I can live for a year. And I don't have to. If I did nothing else, I can live on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very cool. And even like a lower budget movie, you're still going to make 25 or 30 grand. But if you're an actor in that film, what are you going to make? $500 a day, maybe, if you're lucky. Probably more like 100 or 200. So I think that, it's worked out well. And since my husband's an actor, we let him do the acting and I do the producing.
Dream team.
Yes. Dream team.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, I'm in California, but we're looking to move back to New York, actually out to Southampton. So eventually, if you go back to New York, maybe we'll meet up then, because I'm looking to move there. I won't be there. I won't be there this year, but we're hoping to move there by like April or May.
Okay, well, I'll be definitely back next year. That's for sure. How comes you're making the move to New York? Sorry, because it sounds like California. Well, from my experience in California, it's lovely.
It's changed a lot with the political climate that's out right now, and it's really not that. Number one, it's not that safe.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that.
It's not that safe, and it's unfortunate. But like homelessness is terrible, and all the illegal immigration is terrible. And California is one of the places where all the people are coming. So the homelessness is really bad. And I live in Palm Springs, which is a nice area, what's old Hollywood area, and you'll have houses that are millions of dollars, and out front there's people selling food on food stands and homeless people sleeping on the ground and stuff, and they don't do anything about it. So it's just not it's not as appealing as it was. It wasn't like that when I moved here 5 years ago, but it's changed a lot in the 5 years. So my husband's from New York. He would rather be in New York, and I'm fortunate that I built a big enough name as a producer that I'm not shooting hardly anything here anyway. Like we shoot in Georgia a lot, in Atlanta, Georgia. I've got some stuff I'm shooting in New York. I've got some stuff I'm shooting in Texas and Nevada. I only have one film I'm shooting in California out of anything on my plate. So I can be anywhere. And fortunately, I've made a big enough name that I don't have to live here to get job offers.
Oh, good on you. I'm glad to hear
that. So that part's nice. So I don't have to be here, and I'll still come back here to work and everything, but maybe just not live here.
That's a shame. I did notice in San Francisco this year when I visited, the homelessness was like something I'd never seen before. Yeah, we have homelessness in London, but it was nothing like what I saw.
I know, it's terrible. It's really bad. It's gotten really bad, and it's very, very expensive. It's more expensive to live in California than anywhere else. Wow. I don't know how, like our gas prices up, and now it just went down, but primarily ever since the president's been in office, I pay close to $7 a gallon for gas, which for us is a lot. Before gas was like under $3 a gallon, and now it's $7 a gallon.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot big. Yeah, it's a big difference in the grocery store. You can't buy anything in the grocery store that's not at least $5. Like everything's $5 in the grocery. It used to be $2, and now it's $5. So it's just very expensive to live here.
So how do you think actors are coping in this situation? Because many actors move to California from around the world, and with the homelessness, the rent prices, and the grocery prices going up.
My rent is so. I don't really know it. I ask that question all the time, because I have a ton of friends who are like in the actors, but most of them have other jobs. They've got jobs that have to go to support it. Most of them rent, but rent is very expensive, here. Like I have friends and they rent 1,500 square foot apartment, it's like, $3,000-4,000 a month. I don't know how they afford it. I really don't know how. I have one friend who's an actor, but he's pretty successful, but he rents an apartment. It's $10,000 a month.
Wow.
And if you're going to spend $10,000 a month, you could buy a nice ass house, but I'm not sure. And because I'm old and I have a certain standard of living, I live in Palm Springs because Palm Springs is less expensive than LA, and it's not as damaged from everything. But because my house here is expensive, but my house in Los Angeles would be prohibitive. I wouldn't be able to afford to live there. And so that's why we live here, because I have a standard of living, and I don't want to spend $3,000 a month and live in like a ghetto.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
Yes. I just don't, and I'm too old. I'm just too old. I live comfortably, and if I was young, I probably wouldn't care, but because I'm old, I've got a certain standard of living, and so I need to maintain it. And I have, like, I don't want, like last time I was at a big charity event for Halloween, and the riots and everything that's going on with Israel and Palestine and stuff were going on, and I was afraid to drive down the road, that my car was going to get messed up. I drive a nice car, and I was like, oh my God. So like, I don't even go to LA a whole lot unless it's something really, really good, because it's just not safe. The homeless people are everywhere. If you think San Francisco was bad, you just can't even believe it in LA.
And moving to New York, it's going to be better for you by the sound of things. And New York is a place I like. How do you think the indie film in New York is doing right now?
I know a lot of people making films in New York, so I think it's probably doing pretty well. Everything is just getting kicked back up now, and I'm living out like in the suburbs. I'm not going to live in New York City because it's too expensive. But it's like an hour drive, and I live in Palm Springs. It's between an hour and a half and 2 hours, depending on traffic, to get to LA. And it'll be the same for me when I'm in New York, if I want to go to New York City.
Lastly, you're involved in many, many projects, which is great. I'm so happy for you. But do you know the next project that will be released from you that we'll be able to watch?
I have a movie called The Possession of Anne that's coming out in February. It's a horror movie, kind of like an exorcism movie. And so that'll be coming out. Yeah, I think February it's going to come out. It got pushed back because of the strike and everything, but I think it's coming back. And then I have Quigley 2 that we're working on, Zombie with a Shotgun Reloaded, which is a sequel. I have a movie called Death Realm, The Haunting Begins, with some really big stars in it. And I have a movie called Red River that's hopefully going to go into production in the next 6 weeks. And then I have a movie called Purgatorium. It's on Tubi now, which I guess they can't watch it in the UK, but if there's someplace else they can, which is actually a really good film. It just unfortunately doesn't have any big stars in it.
Okay, great. Jimmy, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time and speaking to you, and I hope everything goes well in New York.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Have you thought of upgrading your cinematography game? Would you like to have an ASC cinematographer mentor you for free? Join veteran cinematographer Suki Medenzovic, ASC, Disney, Pixar, FX Networks, Netflix, American Horror Story. As he teaches you how to create beautiful images using 3 lighting techniques he has mastered on film sets over his 30-plus years in the film industry. Each technique uses basic, low-cost lighting equipment so that anyone can achieve beautiful visuals no matter your project's budget. If you want to take your cinematography to the next level, visit filmmakingconversations.com to sign up for instant access.